It's International Women's Day. It's another interview with another inspiring woman today. The theme for International Women's Day is Inspire Inclusion. And so, as you may have figured out by now, I'm interviewing women who inspire me, who I admire, who are my friends, who I love. And today, that person is Felicia. So I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll say first that we know each other from Klarna. It's one of my many, many Klarna connections. But we've been friends, and we've talked about, things we both are really passionate about. And so that friendship that it grew out of working in the same place, but then has grown beyond that to a lot of what we're going to talk about today. So Felicia, tell us about you.
Thank you, Leah, for having me. I'm really looking forward to this. And I also want to thank you that you took this initiative for International Women's Day. I'm Felicia. I'm living in Berlin, and I'm also from Berlin. And the last 10 years I've spent in tech, in several startups. My sweet spot is usually coming in very early and then building the organization. My last position was the chief people officer role at a blockchain and crypto startup. And before that, I've also worked in product. And usually I'm the one building processes, organizations, teams, doing a lot of hiring. Right now I'm on a little bit of a different path, but I think we will talk about that later.
Talk about that for sure.
Yes.
So one of the things that, we obviously both have a real passion for product, but we also, I think even more than that, we have a passion for organizations that have strong cultures and a place where people can be themselves and feel like, hey, I can also be challenged and chase my passion. And so we've talked about, and I think this is one of the conversations I wanted to have with you in front of everyone. There really is an interesting overlap between how product gets built and how teams get built, and how we do that, at least when we're doing it well.
Yes.
There should be some overlap. Maybe talk to me about where you see those overlaps, and we can kind of go back and forth a little.
Yes. Maybe I start with how I got this insight. So my first job was at Kitchen Stories. It's a digital cooking app. And my first position was there, becoming the HR manager. And I am always very curious about everything. And I wanted to do basically a very good job. And for that, I felt like, because I was doing a lot of tech hiring back then, and I always kind of, I interviewed our CTO constantly, because it was like, okay, we're looking for a backend developer and it needs to be this very special profile. And I was like, okay, can you please explain to me what this person is doing? Because otherwise I have the feeling I'm not recruiting kind of effectively and efficiently. And by doing this, I got so curious about how tech works, how product works. And then I asked our CTO if I could join the retro meetings and like the estimation meetings and all of these things. I even was sitting next to our backend developer, looking what he was doing. So I got so curious about this that at some point I felt like I want to put myself into this kind of position and function to really get to know how the business works. Like, what's the business model? What's the value chain? How does a product organization work?
Right.
And if you work in a tech startup, so to say, for me, the whole organization is a product organization, because you always think from the user first. That's how I got curious about this.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that your journey to that, because I think, similarly, but from a different angle, I got into product management through being an accountant and trying to figure out what was going on with our finances, and going and being like, okay, tell me how this works, because money is falling out somewhere and I need us to find it. And the engineers being like, oh, this does it, and drawing me pictures. And pretty soon I was like, you should build a report that does this, and there should be a feature that does that. And they were like, I'm sorry, who are you? Why are you giving us requirements, right? But it was curiosity, to your point, and it was really wanting to understand how it worked, so that I could fix the part that was mine to fix, right? Or just to sort out. And I think you and I have, because of that love of the customer and solving real customer problems, you want to piece together teams like person by person by person. It is this little puzzle to build teams that will just absolutely work to solve that problem, right?
Yes.
But also that they will enjoy doing it, because that's where you get the best work, right?
Exactly.
And so I think that there is so much that when we think about how to bring an organization together and how do you find just the right people, it is not just, I think when I've been the most sort of frustrated is when we've just sort of cast a big net and said, just bring people in, put bodies in seats. And I'm like, no,
No.
that's not fun, right? It doesn't create that cohesion and that spirit that we need in the cultures we have.
Yeah. And then at the same time, when I was like, during my time at Klarna, I was in this product function. And then at like 6 months in, all of a sudden I had this epiphany, like all these kind of processes or also principles that you work with in product, you can just apply to organizations.
Yeah.
Almost one-to-one. Like it's and then your customer becomes your employee. And then in kind of having this whole kind of cross-functional approach in building a product, you can also build the organization, and it then very naturally you can integrate all the kind of perspectives and interests of like different people.
Yeah.
So also the whole topic of diversity and inclusion becomes much easier because everyone kind of has the chance and the opportunity to kind of raise their voice and to be seen and heard.
Yeah.
And yeah, after Klarna, I basically applied this new approach to the company and organization I was building after. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think you and I've talked a lot about that. Like when an organization, we have these extremes. We have companies who try to draw everybody in by saying we're a family, and we're all like, nah,
Yeah, no.
family, right? Your family does not usually get to fire you, right? Like, or decide what you get, that you're not worth something this year or whatever, like we don't usually want families to be about value and worth in that way, right? Yeah. And then there's the other side where it's just like, just get butts in seats, and this is a business. We only care about business. We want you.
You're a resource. We just need to fulfill this.
Yeah, exactly. And I think those extremes, I think what I see often is we sell one version, the we're a family version, and this is our vision and everybody loves that, but then we treat people like resources.
Yeah.
And that's when you're building products, if you say you care about the customer and then build what you want, the product never works. Right. And so I think the same thing is true in a business when you're building an organization. If you try to sell one thing and do another, the team figures it out. These are not stupid people.
No, exactly.
You hire smart people and then go, hope they don't notice that what we promised them is not what we've built. Whereas I think what you're describing and what I care about is how do we figure out how to be crazy curious and madly interested in the customer as a whole organization, and all of us have a product mindset, and how do we do that in a way that it's good to show up every day and you feel seen, valued, respected, and heard, right? And I think there are those nuggets that come from product management that you're like, yep, right? This is how we think about this customer, and like you said, in this case, the employee becomes the customer.
Exactly. Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. And I also think like I got really, really frustrated at some point with like the whole people and culture and HR kind of function and role, and like because you need a lot of support from also senior management and also the founder or the CEO of the company to actually kind of operate that way.
Yeah.
Because you can do it.
Yeah.
But then you also want to kind of get support and also want to get the recognition for it.
Yeah.
But in order to get that, the people kind of leading you need to have an awareness for what you're doing and an understanding. And most of the times it's just kind of the only KPI they really care about is how fast you fill the position, or if like we are kind of managing the budget efficiently. So they don't really, or there's not an awareness in general in having this more strategic approach in like the organization space.
Yeah. And I think that's a super good point. I think one thing that I have seen as well, working in startups and different environments, I really fundamentally believe that if founders and CEOs would really understand what you and I are talking about, what we're trying to do, they would jump that hurdle between the company being their baby that they're madly in love with and they want everybody else to be in love with, but they can never quite get everybody there. If they would understand these principles and have this ability to treat their employees as one of the customers and have people who care about that and do that, they could get people closer to that love of their vision.
Yes.
And their idea. And they would then start to get a return on what they love about what they're doing and have a team that was excited about it, right? But I think they miss the boat when they're like, just get me some butts and seats and let's get this thing moving. We have, we have to make this money, right? And it's like, you're missing it. Like, to your point, they have to understand what it is you're trying to achieve.
Yes.
They have to be supportive of it and they have to really be bought in because it's ultimately their values on display, right? As a company, as a person, what, especially in these kind of founder, led environments. So, yeah, I think we miss the mark sometimes because they don't understand, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's hard work to explain it to get them there. So I totally get that. Yeah, I love it's a super, super important. So when we think about, what we do and what you've done both in product and working in people, why are women's voices so important in what we do? Why do you think?
I think we, like, my kind of biggest learning or my biggest insight is that we just offer an additional perspective to things, and we have other qualities than men. And it's, for me, it was kind of like I've done a project I think 2 years ago during the pandemic, and it was basically me and another woman, and then we had a designer who was basically a male designer who was designing the first kind of version of, it was an app for learning.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting because like we were kind of bringing in the vision, and we were doing the interviews, and then he was basically designing the product.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had a reflection on that the last time we met for breakfast, like a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, it was so valuable to me that you always, like, you were so to the point. You were kind of bringing us down from that cloud of ideas to kind of actionable steps. And then he was like, oh, that's so funny that you're saying that, because I always felt like I was missing so many things, and I was like, oh, I already forgot that. And yeah, I didn't really like, and he was feeling kind of that way, and I was feeling the other way. I was like, oh my God, I was so grateful he was there. And I think that's exactly like those two kind of ways of working and thinking.
Yeah.
And if it's both there,
yeah,
it's like the perfect balance.
Yeah.
And we don't have that balance yet, from my experience.
No.
Especially in tech, like that's the only reference I have. And that's why I think we need many more voices. And I also know, like, and that's also something I'm discussing often with my husband, because he's also really trying to get more female engineers in leading positions and so on. And we're always talking about it. And I do have this thought sometimes that maybe also some positions are not kind of serving the more female way of thinking and working. So I don't have kind of the perfect solution yet, how to, for example, get more female managers into kind of the engineering manager positions, like, for example.
Yeah.
Because I know for myself, like some things I'm just not enjoying, or I'm not good at. I'm good at like other things.
Yeah.
So I also think it's still kind of a very interesting conversation, how to fit everything together so that also everyone can live up to their strength and is kind of pushed into something and then someone else is better because of,
Totally. No, I think that makes total sense. And I think it is, there are so many elements of this to bring it, to help it come together, right? I mean, I think you and I have talked about, I was in this CTO club, and at some point somebody was like, we're only gonna hire like Netflix. We're gonna start hiring only principals and seniors and I was like, and so I said, so you don't plan to have women on the team?
Yeah.
This is in Berlin, right? And and he was like, what do you mean? I said, I mean, there are a handful of principal engineers that are women in this city. And I said, so you need to understand that if you won't hire a bench and train them, they won't become principals. So that's fine if that's what you decide to do, but then don't say the other. Don't say, I care about diversity. I care about, if you're going to say, I only hire this level of person, and I won't build it, and I won't participate in building it, then don't say the other. I'm fine with whatever, just tell the truth. Right. And it was so stark a discussion, right? Because I was like, no, I mean, my job is to hire and bring up, like, because that strength isn't there yet. Like it exists in pockets, but it's not massive. I can't just go out and gather all the principal female engineers to myself, right? It's not, it's hard. And same thing with engineering managers, right? There are some, and there's some great ones, but we have to give the opportunity, and we have to give the mentoring, and we have to give the, the network around them, and we have to make those opportunities possible as a community, not just as each individual business, right? And I think that for me, often it's been about having businesses where women could see themselves in leadership.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The role model. Yeah.
I'm a whole team, and there are no women on the C-suite or in the, middle management layer, or maybe there's one, and God love them, it's always somebody who runs HR or maybe finance, right? But if you have no women running marketing, running tech, running, all these different pieces, the team won't see themselves.
Yes.
Right. I mean, we said that at Amazon. Like, there was a time when I was at Amazon, there was no woman in the senior leadership team. And then they finally were bringing one here and one there, and we were like, this is a big organization. You can't find anyone to promote into this space, right? We had to dig in the chain of command to find the highest ranking woman. You had to dig pretty deep, right? And it's not okay.
No.
Right. I mean, and the data says products are more successful when women are involved in the creation of products, because women are primary purchasers in a lot of e-commerce.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, so we design entire flows around men who don't shop, who don't buy those things. Right.
I actually never thought about that. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, travel was a huge, it was a light bulb for me when I realized that women make something like 2/3 of all the travel decisions for the families and community groups. Right. And so, but meanwhile, we're chugging away, building it just like you build every other male-based product, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, we have 35-year-old women buying our stuff. We need to rethink what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah. In my last company, we had like, I mean, that was very bad from the kind of gender ratio. We had like 10 or 20% women, but we had like one female designer in one of our product teams, and that was just kind of, when she came in, all of a sudden the kind of the like everything just kind of leveled up in terms of communication, creativity, how did like also kind of the whole team dynamic opened up. So and we need much more of that. And I think it's just kind of this bringing in a perspective and a kind of energy that's more connecting, that's curious, that's kind of, men tend to be very kind of like goal oriented and straight and like, don't talk to me, and I like they're hunting basically.
Yeah, sure.
And that's okay, that's how they are, and we are different, and I think it needs to be both.
Yeah. And, you know, and it goes without saying that there are men who are have these traits that we're talking about, and there are women that have these traits.
Absolutely.
And so
Exactly.
it is really about how do you
Yeah.
make a diverse enough table
Exactly.
that there is enough conversation to create connection and curiosity while running fast and hard and excited at a challenge, right? And figuring out how to do both those things, and or all of those things, not really both, but so I totally agree with you. And this is just so important, and we see it. And I definitely give some credit to your lovely husband for being a man who is very aware of,
Yes.
hey, how do we do this? And what are we looking for? Can you help me? You know, he will ask for help from anyone, including a woman, right? And he knows that his teams are better served when he has women on them. And so I have to give him shout out to Felix for being that kind of man, right?
Yes.
Knowing that.
Yeah.
It's been good for his teams. It's been good for the products he's built. So, and it's very, very obvious. Talk to me a little bit about what you're doing now and what's next for you.
Yes. So I've taken some couple of weeks off last year to kind of reflect and also do like this so-called inner work. Was so funny because I was like reading, so I mean that's like what you're reading these days about like self-love, self-acceptance, self-worth, and I always was like, I just don't know what that means.
Right.
And then,
sounds great. Where do I start?
Exactly. And then all of a sudden, end of last year, I was like, I think you have to change something for yourself to change kind of what like your future path, because I knew I really want to give myself kind of this opportunity to create something and to start something on my own. So I like did a lot of kind of walks. I kind of gave myself the permission to do nothing, and it was so hard.
I've done that too.
Oh, it was very, and then like I knew like you have to sit with this very uncomfortable feeling and this inner critic that tells you you're lazy and you're not worth anything. And but the beautiful thing was that then at some point it was like something changed, and all of a sudden things were coming my way. Yeah, and I was like, this is crazy, like maybe this whole thing is working.
Right.
So I gained a lot of trust in myself again, and then all of a sudden a LinkedIn message popped up from a person that you introduced to me. I think a year ago, more or less.
Probably about a year.
Yeah. And I met with Kati, is her name, again. We met 1 year ago, very briefly for lunch, and it was a very natural connection. And you just put us together, and we're like, go for lunch.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm incredibly grateful for that connection. And since then, we have been through some ups and downs with like a project, but we kind of decided that we want to keep working together. And we have we are still in the kind of exploration phase. We are talking to a lot of people, and it will be something around ADHD and women.
Love it.
And it's been incredibly valuable also for me personally, and I think she feels kind of the same, because we really also give each other the space to kind of to be our, as you say, kind of authentic self.
Yeah.
And I'm sometimes saying we're still in the honeymoon phase because it's a bit like too good to be true.
Yeah.
But I think we're able to build such a strong and vulnerable and kind of honest foundation at the moment that I'm convinced it's kind of, if you want to be successful and if you want to build something, if you want to build something that's sustainable,
Yeah.
then this is the right path. Although it's not what we kind of learned, we're founding a company and we're working every day until 3 a.m. and we have to do so many VC pitches and blah, blah, blah. We're doing it our way.
Nice.
And yeah, I think it feels very good.
Yeah.
And I have to kind of, I still have to trust that feeling that it's good and right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's, I think it's lovely because obviously I know from both of you that you each feel what you just described.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not going to all be up and to the right, sunshine and roses, works every day perfectly. But I think you both are smart, aware, generous, forgiving, kind, fun, like you're looking for that. And so if you build, I think co-founder relationships are so important.
Yes.
Right? And I think what I am enjoying watching is how do women with intention build a co-founder relationship, right? That then supersedes just that relationship, right? That has room to allow each of you to be who you are and have the lives you have, that each of you has. So, I mean, I think when I said, hey, you guys should meet, I was sort of like, I don't even know what it'll be, but you need each other, right? Like, so I love you both. You need each other. I don't know what you're going to do with it, right? But I think if more often as women, when we know something like that, when we see two people and think, I think they should know each other.
Yeah.
We just did it instead of thinking about it and then forgetting. I think we know sometimes our instinct says something to us and says, these two, I don't know what they're going to do. But even if they just support each other, this could be great, right? Yeah. And so I think, I'm so glad that it's been something that has been, that you're built and that you are both actively taking the time you need to build the foundation so that when you get ready to do whatever it is, that it's like, okay, now we're ready to go raise money, do whatever, right?
Yes.
I love that. And I think I'm excited to sit on the sidelines and watch, right?
Yes.
Like a fairy godmother, right?
Yes. But that's also the thing with like intuition. And like for me, it's meanwhile, because I was like not good in listening to my intuition like 5 years ago. I always kind of tried to suppress it or to kind of push it away, or I always kept telling to myself like you're wrong, or the like.
Where's the data?
Exactly. but like now I'm almost convinced that we are kind of unconsciously gathering data and like noticing things and like sensing almost 24/7 the environment and people, and we kind of read things, and then our intuition is basically based on data, all this kind of unconsciously gathered data. So this year, like my kind of motto for this year is be fearless, because I was in so much fear my whole life, and that kept me from actually listening to my intuition and to my kind of, and accessing this kind of huge amount of data that I gathered through my experiences, to like all these kind of like sensing and trying to understand people, trying to understand like the whole curiosity piece, like always getting this input, and also actively seeking for input. And I have this mountain of knowledge now that I'm kind of putting into kind of action, and I'm really curious what comes out of that.
Yeah, I absolutely believe in trusting my instincts, right? Because I generally lead me in the right direction. Of course, I go get data when I need to, but I've come to believe that my intuition is a data point,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Like you just said, my intuition, the feeling, the emotion, whatever I am sensing is a data point that is worthy of being included in the logical data framework.
Yes.
And I believe that most of our intuition, to your point, is pattern recognition.
Exactly. Yeah,
Everything
100%.
in my brain goes,
Yeah.
the Tetris all blocks all fall, and I go, oh, I know what to do.
Yeah.
Right. And people will disregard that if they're like, oh, it's not, we don't just trust our gut. And I'm like, that's not as simple as that. It's everything I know about the world and everything I've brought in from outside and everything inside of me creating a pattern that allows me to go, this is a bad idea. I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
Right? Or this is a great idea. Let's do that. And so I think, I mean, or we have a mutual friend, Julian Stiefel, and he will bring me 10 ideas. Right. And I can sit with his ideas and go, yeah, that won't work. That one would work, but you'll never make any money at it. That one's good. And so we have conversations where he's an idea guy, right? He generates so many ideas. And I'm like, yeah, yes, yes, no, 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 yes. Right. Like, and he loves that insight because it's I see the world in a different structure.
Yeah.
Right? And we need all of those types of people to do
Yes.
what we do and to build great things in the world. So I'm excited to see you trusting your intuition and also what will come of that. So if you were going to give younger you some advice that maybe some of those who are listening could take something from, what would it be?
Trusting your intuition. And just kind of asking for things. I mean, being kind of the people person in a company, I've had so many talks about salary, about promotion, about whatever with like employees. And the one thing that women just don't do is like ask for things.
Yes.
And I know that for myself, and I usually and I'm not there yet. I know, like, I'm still not there yet, but the thing that always kind of kept me kind of silent was that I always ask myself, if I ask for this, what will the other person think of me?
Right.
And that's just, this thought is not helping, and it's not true. Just ask and get the conversation going, and then something will happen. Maybe it's the outcome that you expected, maybe it's something very different, maybe it's something better.
Right. Right.
But just get it out there and kind of create your own reality in that sense.
No, I love that. I mean, I say the way I say that is the answer to every question you don't ask is an automatic no.
Yes.
So if you don't ask me, I can't even say no. So when someone, I know you've had this happen. Someone will approach you and say, I'm resigning. And you're like, usually I'm not surprised. But when someone surprises me, it's someone who has not asked me for anything.
Yes.
And it infuriates me. Nothing pisses me off more as a leader than the person who never asked me.
Yeah.
And then made a decision.
Exactly.
I'm like, you didn't even ask if you could have that thing.
Exactly.
Right? If you had asked me, at least let me say no.
Yeah.
Let me break your heart. Don't do it for me. Right. And normally I try to figure out how to make things work. Right. So that was always my, I wanted my teams to know, ask me. You can ask me for anything and I will not judge the question. I may have to say no, but I will not judge the question. If you don't ask me, you take away my opportunity to give you something you want.
Yeah.
Right. And I think as a parent, as a friend, as a spouse, say what you need and let the other person say, yeah, I can't do that. And then deal with it.
Exactly.
Right. But don't decide ahead of time that that's what they'll say, because maybe they won't.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I learned last month. That's self-sabotaging.
Yes.
Because I always read this word and I was always like, what does that mean? Like, okay, but how? Like, and then I was like, oh shit.
That, right?
Oh, that. Oh, I did that my whole life. Oh, all right.
Oh, it's a bummer.
Stop doing that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think I said in one of the other interviews, I quit my job at Amazon rather than ask for a break.
Yep. Exactly.
I quit my job.
Yeah.
Rather than say, could I have 3 months off because I'm tired?
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I guarantee, even though it's unusual in the US, I was real good at what I did. They would have been like, yeah, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? I know that's what would have happened because I
Yeah.
now talk to the people who were my boss at the time. They're like, you should have just asked us, right? But I didn't. And so I consider it one of my failings
Yeah.
that I didn't say, here's what I need. Can you do it? Because if you can't, I can still quit. Right? That option existed.
Yeah.
No matter what. But I just quit instead of saying, I need a break because I am worn out. Right? So that lesson has stuck with me because I don't have massive regrets. My life carried on and I was fine, but I don't know how things would have been different if I had just asked for what I needed. Right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm like you. I'm still learning that lesson every day. Say what you need, right? Don't guess. Say what you
No,
need.
exactly. Yeah.
So I love that advice. Well, thank you for letting me interview you and for spending this time with me today. I know that it will inspire some of those out there who would like to be founders, would like to think about how to bring sort of product and people work together and want to trust their intuition more. So thanks for sharing all of that. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Leah.
For those of you who are watching, you'll notice there's a QR code right down here where you can donate to the Malala Fund. The Malala Fund helps women and girls get educated in areas where they maybe traditionally had not had access to education, and they also help women get leadership education where opportunities present themselves to these women. So please donate, and we will give some money to that really just cause. So thanks, Felicia.
Thank you.